right. Welcome, Rotarians and guests, to the 5054th meeting of the Rotary Club of San Jose. Today's greeting line, Golf Committee, where are you? Where's that Golf Committee? I know there's someone here, wave up. They've got an event coming up on October 22nd. If you're a golfer, if you want to learn to golf, check in with that Golf Committee. All right, one of my favorite parts, guests, visiting Rotarians and Rotarians with guests, please stand up on our red badgers with microphones. We'll come find you. And today we have Hal Hendrickson and Hui Gua. Hal, introduce yourself, please.
Good afternoon, President Heather. I'm Hal Hendrickson. I'm retired from the manufacturing side of the electronics industry. I was a sales marketing director, and my sponsor is the fabulous Heather Lerner.
Oh, thanks. Hui, please introduce yourself.
Thank you, President Heather. Hello, everyone. My name is Yuhui Guo, and my sponsor is David Neal. Thank you, David.
Fantastic. Great to have you. All right, let's start on this side of the room here. Who do we have today as your guest? Or say hello, please, first, Robert.
Good afternoon, President Heather. Robert Massey, Symphony San Jose. Today, my guest is my wife, violist extraordinaire, Lisa Ponton.
Welcome, welcome. Such talent in the house. All right. Larry Stone.
President Heather, my guest today is Aaron O'Neill, who is the Superintendent of Silicon Valley Career Technical Education.
Welcome. Glad you're in the room. Hi, Miss Kelly.
Hello, Miss Heather. I would like to introduce once again Nick Campo. Nick is co-founder and president of Levitt Insurance, which is located here in the Rose Garden of San Jose. And Sarju, thank you so much for introducing me to Rotary.
Wonderful. Glad to see you back in the room. Starting to feel like home in here, isn't it? Hey, Rodney, great to see you.
Good afternoon. Great to see you too. Rodney Meyer, I'm just introducing my colleague, Cynthia Sakula, as her several meetings, and she will be putting in her application soon.
Wonderful. Welcome, welcome.
Hello, President Heather.
Hi.
Mike Anning, the Mosaic Mortgage Group, and my guest today is Leslie Lang. She is a real estate agent with Compass by day and a comic by night.
Oh, we'll be chatting later. Thank you. Hey, Elizabeth.
President Heather.
Hi, Elizabeth.
Elizabeth Monley, and my guest today is my husband, who never misses a chance to see Andy Fraknoi.
Wonderful. Hi, Dave.
President Heather, Marvin Bamberg from Campbell Rotary.
Hi, Marv.
Just in case anybody's interested, we meet the first and third Mondays every month at Khan's Restaurant on Hamilton Avenue in Campbell.
And that would be for makeups, not for poaching. Thanks. Great to see you, Marv. Barbara.
Barb Marshman, and my usual guest, my husband, Will, who
Hey, Will.
wanted to hear Mr. Fraknoi.
Mr. Weisbrot.
Hello, President Heather. I have 7 guests, all here to see Andy Fraknoi. Lisa Pesta, CEO of Merrill West Credit Union, Peter Costigan, John Anton and David Bowers, engineers, Gideon Gimlin, patent lawyer, Barry Shepard, retired businessman, and Teddy Fagan, law student.
Wow. Thank you. All right. Hal's running around to the next one there. Oh, wait. Dan Orloff. Hello.
Thank you, President Heather. My guest today is a friend of many, many years, Art Bernstein. You may know, or some of us may know, Art when he was executive director of Hopkins & Carley, the law firm in downtown San Jose. He's retired now. And he also is one of 11 members of a committee appointed by the Treasury Secretary that decides on the designs of U.S. coins and medals. And next year there's a new quarter coming out, and if you don't like it, talk to Art.
Welcome, Art. Thank you.
Thank you, President Heather. I'm Martha Wapensky. With me today is Amanda Cox, aerospace engineer and manager. Also, I have with me today Michelle Thompson, Keller Williams real estate agent.
Welcome. So glad you're in the room today. Thank you. Scanning.
Hi,
Hi,
President
Stephanie.
Heather. It's Stephanie. Today I have with me Linda Sawyer. She was here last week. This is her second visit. She is from Anchorage, Alaska, and moved here about a year ago, and we're hoping she's going to join.
Oh, wonderful. Let's give her a warm welcome. Sure what San Jose is all about. Great. Hi, Gloria.
Hi, President Heather. Gloria Duffy. I am very happy to welcome as my guest Chad Richards. Chad is senior counsel with the firm Netzel Grigsby, which is a fundraising and development firm that helped the Commonwealth Club build its beautiful building in San Francisco. He is also the grandson of one of the founding board members of San Jose Rotary, whose picture is on the wall of the Gordon House, and he comes to us today from Walnut Creek.
Great to have legacy here in the room. Thank you. Eric.
Hey, President Heather. Here with my middle son, Ethan, who just graduated from University of Oregon. Go Ducks, right? And if anybody has a job in public policy, city transportation type studies, please reach out to him. Or me, either way.
Great to see you in the room. Thank you. Good. Got one right here in the front, and I think we're about wrapped up.
I'm Gautam Mehta, coming from District 3182. My club is Kadur near Bangalore. My district is 3182, and my governor is Dev Anand. I bring you all good wishes from my club, from my president, from the members of my district. I've been on a visit to this place for the 4th time to USA, and during these 4 visits of mine to USA, this is my 46th meeting which I'm attending at different clubs in USA. I have enjoyed all my meetings with you all, and that is the fellowship what I got, the magic of Rotary what has given to me. I have been again tempted to come back and attend this meeting here. This will be my last meeting. Next week I will flying back to India. Thank you all very much.
Thank you so much for being here. Great to have you here. All right. Next up, we have Ring the Bell, but before that, I got to give a shout out to my neighbor, Mel. She lives with us at the Floating Homes, and we didn't even know this was happening today. She's here with Sammy, so hi, Mel. All right, Ring the Bell. This is a wonderful time. Don't forget, we do this once a month. It's a $100 contribution per ring. If you've got great news, if you've got something you're going through and you want a little love on that one, if you want to give a shout out to somebody, this is the time. So I can't wait to hear how many great contributions we're going to have today. And I believe we have our first one.
Thank you, President Heather. I am Jonas Goer, JP Graphics and Idle Time Wines, and my sponsor is Bonnie Brandberg and Kathy. I would like to ring the bell twice today. One of them because I'm going to be 60 on Sunday, and so I'm going to celebrate my 60th birthday. And then the second ring is for I'm going to be releasing our 2022 vintage of wine in October on the 18th and 19th, and I'm so inviting everybody at the same time. Thank you.
Thank you. Hi, James.
James Williams. I'd like to start by saying that I'm very honored to have recently joined the board of Symphony San Jose, a wonderful institution. And I'd like to shout out that our opening concert is this Saturday evening and Sunday matinee with the great John Nakamatsu that we all know and love from a few weeks ago. So I'll ring the bell twice for those two things.
Thank you so much. What a great announcement.
Thank you, President Heather. Leslie Corsilia, and I would like to ring the bell once today for the new pickleball committee, which had its first meeting last week, and anyone who wants to join can let me know or let Ryan know. We've got a lot planned, so we'd love to have you there.
All right, one ring for pickleball. Thank you. Hi, Sean.
Hey, hi. Sean O'Kane, and my sponsor is Elizabeth Monley right here. Thank you. One ring for my son, Colin O'Kane, and the Colin O'Kane Foundation. We have his annual memorial lacrosse game in Palo Alto near Stanford this Saturday, and we raise money for first responders, research for hypertrophic cardiomyopathy, and for scholarships for men and women who want to play the game of lacrosse. So thank you.
Thank you, Sean, for sharing that and keeping that legacy going. A little aggressive there. Hey, Tom.
Hi, President Heather.
Just to tweak some, my sponsor, after all these years, I should tell you, is the young Stevie Borkenhagen. I'm ringing the bell twice today. Once as just share an alert to everybody, and second, hopefully, that we'll eventually have a solution. As I was telling Heather, I went to the grocery store at Midtown Safeway about 11:15 Sunday night to get some groceries for my wife. And as I was walking into the store, there was a guy coming down the aisle with a full cart of groceries with a little kid in the cart and with his wife or significant other, and they just walked out with all the groceries. And that's the first time really that I've ever witnessed that occurring, and it was really sad for me to see that. And I'm hopeful that we will have a solution, and one of the solutions I would think is that we should put pressure on Safeway and others to shore up the police protection that they have for themselves, because it costs other grocery purchasers a lot more to buy those groceries. So anyway, I just wanted to share that news with everybody.
Thank you for that thought, Tom. Hi, Patrick.
Hey, hi, President Heather. My sponsors are Fernando and this guy, whoever that guy is. So I want to ring the bell twice. As the proud father, I'm spending money so I can brag about my kid. So my son, as you guys might have remembered, is a Rhodes Scholar, and he just finished his doctorate at Oxford. So that's kind of cool.
Definitely brag-worthy.
But the important thing is he actually got a job at Berkeley as a research specialist. And for Mom, he's now back in the Bay Area. So that's the most important thing that happened.
Wonderful. How many rings?
Two rings.
Two rings for parent win. Looks like we've got Rod. And then we'll get to Mark.
Your Royal Highness, I'm very happy to be another dad, proud of a child. Our daughter, Mary Diradon, has produced her, she wrote the music and the words, and produced her second record. It's on YouTube, and she performs in the band called Beneath You, and it's a satire on anybody who thinks they're going to be over her, and she performs as Mary Deary.
Well, let's look that up. Thank you. Was that one ring, Rod? I think that was one. Mark.
Hello, President Heather. So my name is Mark McKenna, and my sponsor was Mike Conniff, who's around here somewhere, and I'm happy to be back. So I want to ring the bell twice. Once is for my spouse, Carol Reed. She's on sabbatical in London, and also she received, along with her co-authors, the Helen B. Dexter Award for the Best International Paper at the annual Academy of Management. That's an Academy of Management-wide award that is granted to only one paper out of the 30,000 that are submitted and the 2,300 that are presented. So it's a big deal.
Wonderful.
Wow. Thank you. And then I'd like to ring the bell a second time because on my time in London, I had a chance to go to Ireland, and I managed to meet my fourth cousin that I've been hunting for a long time. Maybe related to you, his name is Donald Costigan. And so I'd like to ring the bell once for family connections that can endure through the years. Thank you.
Thank you, Mark. That's two rings.
Thank you, President Heather. Dan Orloff. My
Dan.
sponsor was Jim Zuer. This is Ring the Bell Once for my son Nathan Orloff, who on the heels of editing John Wick 4 and Ghostbusters Afterlife will be on the red carpet next Thursday in Hollywood with the premiere of Saturday Night, which is tearing up the Oscar Awards track buzz right now. One ring, please.
Mazel.
And it's at Pruneyard Cinemas.
Good afternoon. I'm Alex Satinsky. I'm the CEO of the San Jose Downtown Association, and I would like to ring the bell once to announce our annual meeting next week, Friday, October 11, at the Signia Hotel at 8:30 a.m. It's probably the most impactful, important event that we do for the community all year. You will learn about everything downtown, everything that the association has done, either by itself or in partnership with others, and what we're planning on doing in the future. So please come. It's a free event. I would encourage you to sign up at sjdowntown.com, but sign up so that we have a more specific count of how many people will be there. So thank you. Hope I see you all there.
Thank you, Alex. And I believe our last one is Jean Serpa.
Oh, there's two. Hi, President Heather. Jean Serpa with Republic Services. I'm going to ring the bell once today for my son, Jack Serpa, who is working so hard in school and working so hard on his high school applications to Bellarmine and MIDI. Yeah, go Bells. Oh, I'm celebrating him today.
Wonderful. Thank you, Jean. So many proud
Hi.
parents. Oh, you got Michelle too. Great.
President Heather, Michelle Loxon, Boys and Girls Clubs of Silicon Valley. I'd like to ring the bell 3 times today. Once to celebrate the Fun and Fellowship Committee. If you're on the Fun and Fellowship Committee, can you please stand up very quickly? Yes. All right. Stand up. Thank you. The Fun and Fellowship Committee has some really great events planned for you, from the events that you know and love every year to some really fun and exciting new events. So stay tuned for details on that. And then my other 2, ring the bells, is in celebration of International Day of the Girl. So Day of the Girl is an internationally recognized day of observance in October, and it's dedicated to championing the rights and the empowerment of young girls. Boys and Girls Clubs will be celebrating all next week. We're rebranding ourselves as Girls and Boys Clubs of Silicon Valley. And we're bringing together 150 local professional women and 150 club girls for a day of fun and mentorship. So.
That's beautiful. Thank you so much, Michelle. 3 rings. You got a microphone.
I do. Hi, President Heather. I guess she is my sponsor, which is great. I just want to ring the bell for someone who probably doesn't get rung very often, and that's Sammy. Sammy has been working really hard to clean this up and paint it and make it all nice for you and to the beautiful lunch, so I just want to ring the bell for Sammy.
Absolutely. What a beautiful tribute, all of you. So many great themes of pride in your family, your contributions. Dave, come on up and join me for a program update. It's so quiet. Dave, come on up and join us for a program update.
All right. Thank you, Heather. Thank you all. So it's been about 3 months since I was up here before talking about everything we would do on the program committee. I'm now here to ask for your feedback on how we've done so far. So just a couple of quick updates. Number 1, while I'm talking, if you want to get out your phone and capture that QR code right there, it will take you to our first program committee member survey. So we'd love to get your feedback, not only on how we're doing. In fact, there are 2 questions that you have to answer, and the rest are optional. One question is, rate the quality of the programs over the last 3 months. And it's not about any individual speaker, it's just, in general, what are your opinions on the programs we're putting on? The second question is, rate the quality of the topics that we have people present on. The other questions are asking for your feedback, like if you have topics you'd like us to find speakers for, or you know speakers who would be great, please give us that information that we can follow up and invite them to speak with us. So again, the more people that can give us feedback, the better and more engaging programs we can create for all of us. And also this QR code and a link to the survey will also be in the bulletin that goes out from the executive team, so please look for that as well. And then just a preview of the talks that are coming up over the next 4 weeks. And I wanted to mention this because Jeff Poole and Dan Orloff are working with us now to really start to promote the speakers that we have coming to the club. So that we're going to know in advance, every probably 4 to 5 weeks in advance, who those speakers are, and they're getting that out. So if you're ever wondering who's going to be speaking next, go to the Facebook page. We'll have something up there on the future speakers. Next week, we're actually going to have 2 speakers from the San Jose Sharks. One is Randy Hahn. He's going to talk about the trades they've made, what the team is looking like for this year. And then Chris Shea, the VP of Operations, is going to be talking about, are the Sharks actually going to stay? How are the conversations going with the city around the SAP Center and so on? We have the Lee Weimers Awards on October 16th. Please sign up for those. And then on October 23rd, we're going to have our own Chuck Cantrell talking about a video that he made and research that he's done on the challenges of a structurally based economic system and its cycles. I put up the barcode here. If you want to capture that barcode, again, we'll try to get it in the bulletin. That goes to about an 8-minute video that Chuck has created called Dying to Stay Here. It's a very impactful video. If you watch it, I think you'll get a lot more context for the conversation that we're going to have with Chuck. And finally, the last person to speak about is Mark Purdy. He is coming to talk to us on October 30th on the history of the San Francisco 49ers. So he's recently written a book called The San Francisco 49ers, An Illustrated Timeline. We will also be selling the book here in the lobby during his visit. But again, if you want to capture that barcode, you can pre-order the book. That will help us bring in enough books for the entire club. So he'll be here to sign the book and talk with you after his talk as well. So a lot of good things going on with the program committee, but most important, we'd love to get your feedback. It doesn't matter what we think about ourselves, it matters what you think about us. So thank you very much.
Dan Pulcarano, join me up here, please. That was a great, I'm really excited about those programs coming up. I don't think we've done that before. All right, let's go downtown.
Hi, President Heather. First off, I wanted to wish everyone a Happy New Year for those of you who are celebrating. Tonight is the Jewish New Year. The year is 5785 for those who are keeping track. Yeah, it's an old calendar. Now, to this weekend's calendar, I have the 3 top events for you this weekend, all of which are 2-day events, interestingly. The first is Little Italy's San Jose Italian Festival, and like all things Italian around here, it's way over the top. There's going to be Lamborghinis and Ferraris, Italian motorcycles, dancers, of course, food, and what's an Italian festival without food? And then there's going to be a lot of music, including Pasquale Esposito from the great place, last year's Coppa Italia winner, Naples, Italy, where my family happens to be from too. So come out to Little Italy this weekend. It's going to be a lot of fun. As James Williams mentioned, John Nakamatsu's at the California Theater. He's doing Gershwin's Rhapsody in Blue. He's doing Bolero, and also An American in Paris. It's going to be great fun both days, Saturday and Sunday. And then the third thing is the Rock and Roll Half Marathon is taking place. They're going to be bringing 9,000 runners downtown for the marathon. So watch out. There's going to be streets blocked as well, but it's going to be great fun. Thank you, and that's it.
Thank you, Dan. Is Mary Curtis here? Oh, she is. Come on up. While she's coming up, I'm just going to sneak in a quick president's time while she's making her way up, because this one's an important one. One of the Rotary themes of the year is People of Action, and I met Colonel Ray Watts, a guest of Catherine Tompkinson, at the Fall Barbecue a couple weeks ago, and I was sharing my enthusiasm about the Veterans Day Parade and getting a great lineup of Rotarians participating, and his face kind of fell and said, I just got an email this morning saying it's going to be canceled, there's no one to run it, and there's no one to fund it. That's unacceptable. This parade has been in perpetuity since 1918. Rotarians all went to action that night, and it's been a continuous loop of calls, communications, really tight communications. Ray, he stepped up to run the parade, and our Rotarians stepped up to lead on funding, and we need a minimum of $80,000. Our Rotarians in the room here reached out to their networks and raised over half of the funds necessary to pull this parade off. Our mayor started an emergency fundraising call to help raise the rest of it. And keep in mind, we were starting at zero, just absolutely at scratch. This thing was going to be canceled. And they did this with no drama, no chaos, no finger pointing, just like, it's go time. And it is go time. So please help me recognize our people of action that led that effort here in this room. Brad Barron, Catherine Tompkinson, Leah Tennisgetter, Audrey Fox, and Leslie Hamilton. Our own club here will be putting up $5,000 to the parade. Thank you for your time on that one. Share us with briefly disaster relief, Mary Curtis.
Well, I've been on vacation for the last month. Unfortunately, disasters did not take a vacation. And so I want to update you on two topics. The first is North Carolina. We have reached out and are hoping to make contact with Rotary clubs, specifically in Asheville or in the mountain regions where people lost their homes. And if any of you have contacts, friends who are Rotarians who are in that part of the country, I'd love to talk to you. So I hope to have more news soon. And we are likely to respond with shelter boxes. That hasn't happened yet, but it's under consideration. The second thing I want to update you on is Maui. Now, it's been a long time since the Maui fire, but we have funds allocated to that relief program. And we had identified an equine therapy program, which we have been seeking to vet. It turns out that our Maui contact for Rotary is also on the board of another foundation, which is considering a rather large gift to that organization. So I'm going to rely on her to vet the organization further before we deploy our money, but that there is still stuff going on in Maui, and we need to be on the front line with that too. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much. Thank you. Okay, Arthur Weisbrod.
Andrew Fraknoi retired as the chair of astronomy at Foothill College in 2017. He now teaches astronomy at the University of San Francisco and at San Francisco State. He's the lead author of the top astronomy textbook in the country, Astronomy, published free online. It's been used by over 1.1 million students, and it has saved students more than $90 million in textbook costs. He has also published 2 children's books, several teaching manuals, and recently, 7 science fiction stories based on good, solid astronomy. He appears regularly on local and national radio, explaining science developments. The International Astronomical Union has named asteroid 4859 Asteroid Fraknoi to recognize his contributions to the public appreciation of science. Andy was born in Hungary and came to America when he was 11 years old. The most popular science fiction story he has written so far is entitled, I Swallowed a Martian. I am a certified Fraknoi groupie. I was blown away by his presentation to our club years ago when he told us we were made of stardust. So I audited his classes in Astronomy 1, Astronomy 2, and Physics for Poets. He is a gifted teacher. It is my great honor to welcome back Professor Andrew Fraknoi, Rotary's favorite astronomer.
Well, thank you, Arthur. What a wonderful introduction. And it's so nice to be back in person with the club. This is the club I've spoken most to of all the Rotary clubs that I occasionally get asked to tell bad jokes to. So today, if we could have the first slide. Oh, I do that, okay. So today I want to talk to you appropriately about the sun, which is giving us a lot of heat these days. And I want to talk a little bit about the sun not as a quiet object in the sky, but as an active place, a place in which there is a lot more going on than meets the eye. Let's take a look. These are some of the characteristics of the sun. It's about 1 million miles across. The reason it looks so small is it's far away, but overall it's about 1 million miles across. It's about 4.6 billion years old, so a little bit older than our president. The composition is made mainly, in fact entirely, of gas. And that's something really hard for us to imagine, living on a solid world. That the sun is made entirely of gas, very, very hot gas. And therein lies our story. It's so hot that the atoms in this gas are ripped apart by the heat. And so instead of having atoms, you have individual electrons and individual nuclei of atoms, which are both electrically charged. Such a gas is called a plasma. And when there are motions in a plasma, as there are in the sun, which is rotating, enormous magnetic forces come into play. And that's the secret to the sun's activity, is that it's highly magnetic. Now here's what the sun looks like with a filtered photograph. And you can see that, like a teenager, it's got blemishes on its face. We call these darker areas sunspots, but they are actually places where the sun's magnetism is keeping hot material down, meaning that it's cooler than the rest of the sun and looks darker. They're still incredibly hot places, but they're a little bit cooler than the rest of the sun. And those sunspots turn out to be signatures of seething activity underneath involving the magnetism of the sun. We now know, after many years of study, over centuries, that the more sunspots there are, the more seething and active the sun is becoming. And there's an actual cycle that we have discovered, which I want to tell you about in a minute. But let's take a look at the sunspots in more detail. Oh, I'm sorry, this is the cycle that I wanted to tell you about. So here we see that the sunspots actually grow and decrease and grow and decrease with an 11-year cycle. And we have seen this happening for centuries. So what that means is I'll talk about in a second, but let's take a look at what the sun looks like, its overall structure, with a telescope that gives us unbelievable detail. This is a new image from a new telescope called the Daniel K. Inouye telescope in Hawaii, named after the senator who got the money for it. And you can see that the sun is made up of cells, of seething cells. It reminds us a little bit, for those of us who were there in the 60s, of lava lamps, where there were motion up and down, or perhaps a boiling miso soup, where you see cells of material rising and falling. And the borders are places where material falls, the centers are places where material rises, and the material is constantly in motion. The state of Texas is there for scale at the bottom left, to give you a sense of what we're talking about. Now, what happens when these seething magnetic activities burst out? What happens is that sometimes the charged particles simply lose their ability to be contained. They are flung out from the sun in a vast ejection of material. We call these, because the sun's outer layer is called the corona, we call these coronal mass ejections, or CMEs. And it turns out that the sunspots and the CMEs are correlated. In fact, all activity on the sun is correlated. When the sunspots are at their lowest number, there are far fewer CMEs and flares of energy from the sun. When the sunspots are at their highest number, we know the sun is most disturbed, and so more of these ejections of material. And you can see vast arcs of hot gas are flung out of the sun to great distances, and they move, and they continue to move away from the sun. And if something's in their way, it could be a problem. Now, luckily, the sun is a democratic ball, right? it can give off these ejections in any direction, and most directions are not anywhere in the direction of Earth. But every once in a while, just by luck, one of these tongues of hot material is pointed directly at us, and that's when the consequences become serious. All right, so let's take a look. The protection that we have from particles from space turns out to be another magnetic phenomenon, and that's that line. Ignore that line at the bottom. But that turns out to be the magnetic field of the Earth. You probably know, if you've used a compass, that the Earth is a magnet, and the Earth's like a big bar magnet with a North Pole and a South Pole, and its magnetic zone of influence, what we call its magnetic field, protects us from particles from space. Particles that come from space generally are caught by the magnetic field, and they are trapped in that magnetic zone. When we have a lot of particles trapped, they make a kind of belt, discovered first by James Van Allen's instruments aboard one of the first rockets that went into space, and so we call them the Van Allen belts. The Van Allen belts are a collection of trapped charged particles that we are essentially keeping from hitting the Earth itself. There are only two places where the belt of magnetism comes in, and you can see that on the picture, near the North Pole and near the South Pole. So when that happens, let's see, for some reason I have that again. When that happens, we turn out to have a pretty vulnerable thing in the way of the particles, which is our atmosphere. What happens when very fast-moving charged particles come out of space and hit the molecules of air in the atmosphere? They get excited. You'd get excited too if you got hit. And so they get excited and begin to glow. And when the atmosphere near the North Pole and the South Pole glows, it can be quite spectacular. We call it the Northern Lights or the Southern Lights in the Southern Hemisphere, and it's a glowing curtain of light in the sky, which is a signature that particles from the Van Allen belts are coming out. Now, typically, you have to go pretty far north and south, right? People take tours. One of you mentioned that you're going on a tour for this. But what happens if there is a coronal mass ejection? If there's a coronal mass ejection, it overwhelms the Earth's magnetic field. And so then the charged particles come in, and they come much further south in the north, much further north in the south, and they begin to actually join the parts of the Earth that have civilization. Charged particles are coming down. The most dramatic such an ejection was actually observed in 1859. It was first observed by an amateur astronomer named Richard Carrington, and here you see him with one of his instruments. I'm a little confused because I think the committee got the labels on the wrong slides when they redid my slides. So his name is going to come up on the next slide, okay? But that's okay, they meant well. And so we called this event in 1859 the Carrington event. And it's the largest geomagnetic storm we've ever had, caused by one of these great ejections. And the aurora from the southern hemisphere was observed in Australia. The northern aurora borealis was seen in the Caribbean and Hawaii. And people in the US could read a newspaper at night. So terrible was the flow of electrons, of charged particles throughout the Earth's atmosphere, that the World Wide Web of 1859 went down. Now you might say, what is that? Well, that's the telegraph service. Our World Wide Web was then the big deal of a telegraph service connecting the world. And that telegraph service went down. Actually, some people reported that electricity came out of the keyboards because so much electricity was in the sky. It was a superstorm. Here's one of the headlines from that. Telegraph wires useless for several hours. Imagine if the World Wide Web went down for several hours, what problems we would have. Now, it turns out that the National Academy of Sciences did a report recently, what would happen today if there were a Carrington event, a great coronal mass ejection coming directly toward the Earth? And the answer turned out to be that it would be the equivalent of 20 Katrina-level storms and cost between $1 and $2 trillion. Even with all the protections of modern society, there would be a problem. For example, we had a much smaller storm in 1989. Again, the slides are not in the order I put them. Okay. We had a much smaller storm in 1989, and it brought down the power grid in Quebec, Canada. For 6 million customers, they were plunged into darkness because of the extra electricity coming down into the skies. A really big one, a big coronal mass ejection, could fry the transformers that keep our power grid going and delivering power, and they would have to be replaced, and that could take months where we'd be without electricity. So it's pretty important for us to be aware of what the sun is doing. Another reason you should be nice to your local astronomer. So in addition, we have satellites around the Earth and around the sun, and some of them would be very strongly affected. Their electronics, if a powerful surge of charged particles were to come by, their electronics would be also fried or seriously affected. And then all these satellites that we rely on for things like GPS, for things like wireless, would have problems delivering the services we are used to. So already today, more and more satellites are being hardened against particle surges from space, but a lot of the older satellites are not. So it's now appropriate to ask, what's happening today? Should I be concerned? And I want to let you know that we are in the midst of solar maximum. 2024 and 2025 are the time of greatest sunspots, and it's very possible that the sun will experience a number of coronal mass ejections. In fact, we did that. We saw that. Now let's see, again, for some reason this slide repeats. And I don't have the slide that I expected afterwards. But in May of this year, you may remember that we had northern lights, the auroras, visible in Northern California. If I had the slides in the right order, they would show you the Lick Observatory in San Jose with a beautiful curtain of northern lights, which is what was photographed back in May. So we need to really be careful. This is during that time, a weather map that shows you sort of where the aurora was most likely, and you can see quite a far down into the United States. So I don't want to scare you or anything, but this is a pretty serious way in which we interact with the universe. So far, probably most of our experiences, this has not come into our consciousness because most of the time the coronal mass ejections go in some random direction in the solar system. But it could be one of these days that there is a disruption to our technology, and we need to be ready for that. This is the slide I was thinking would be earlier. It shows you the number of satellites up in space a few years ago. And you can see that the low Earth orbit is crowded with satellites, many of which are vulnerable. When there was a minor such ejection coming our way a few years ago, a number of planes and boats lost track of their direction because of the effect it had on the global positioning system satellites. So here's a little summary of what space weather can do to our infrastructure. It can make changes in our radiation belt. It can produce beautiful auroras. It can also interfere with communications. It can change the upper atmosphere. It can have satellites not functioning properly, and it can really affect the power grid. So these are all things. We have a department which is dealing with this. Let's see if that slide, nope, the slide I had isn't there. But we had a department of NOAA, which some political candidates want to get rid of, the National Oceanic and Atmospheric Administration. We have something called the Space Weather Prediction Center. And if you've ever heard another good reason to support NOAA, it's the fact that this weather center gives us predictions about the sun. We have satellites observing the sun, and it can tell us when something is coming. So to the degree that we can be prepared, we can be prepared. Power systems are working on better protections, but it's something, as our society gets more and more technological, we need to pay attention to. So let me close with this slide. That's the Beatles song, Here Comes the Sun, and most of the time it's all right, as they say in the Beatles song. But every once in a while, here comes the sun, and it's not quite all right. And I hope I've been able to alert you to yet another thing to worry about in this complex year that we live in. Thank you very much.
And that's why you're a crowd favorite. Thank you so much. We're going to go for some Q&A right now. So stick around. I'll give you the mic, and I'll just kind of direct from here.
All right.
All right. Looks like we've got Fernando first. He's straight over there.
I was wondering, Professor Fraknoi, thank you for enlightening us. Why does the sun and the planets spin around their own axis and around the sun?
Well, our best understanding of why everything in our solar system is spinning is that we were born from a spinning cloud. There was a cloud already spinning, and everything that coalesced out of that cloud kept that spinning motion of the original cloud. And that's why everything is spinning in the same direction, because we share our origin in that cloud.
Fantastic. I think we need, oh, all right. Hi, Steve. And then let's get to Will, too, over here, Red Badgers with mics. Go ahead, Steve.
So what's the most surprising thing that has come out of the James Webb telescope so far?
Oh my goodness. So you know about the James Webb Space Telescope. We have an incredible new instrument up in space, which gives us a view of the universe with greater detail than ever before, but not in visible light, but in infrared rays, in heat rays. And with heat rays, we can see things in the universe that we can't see with visible light. So what kind of infrared pictures have we been getting? Amazing. We've been able to tell what the atmospheres of some planets orbiting other stars are made of, which is incredibly important for figuring out if they have Rotary clubs on those other worlds. And my favorite is that we've been able to look back to the beginning of the galaxies of stars and see that things got organized in the universe sooner, quicker than we had anticipated. And that's going to involve some really detailed restructuring of our theories to explain how the stars got organized a little earlier.
Beautiful. Let's do Will, and then Tom, and then we'll make it over to you, Jeff. Will.
Do scientists know why you have that 11-year cycle? Seems odd for 11 years.
Great question. I was actually hoping someone would ask that question, so thank you. Why do we have an 11-year cycle? So this is a little technical, but bear with me. The sun is made of gas. It's not solid. So it doesn't have to rotate at the same rate. Solids have to rotate at the same rate, but gases can rotate in different ways at different latitudes. So you have this complicated magnetic field in the sun where each piece of the sun rotates at a different rate. And so the magnetic fields get all wound up and stretched, and every 11 years they kind of break. Much like in an earthquake, a stress is released after a long time of building up inside the earth. This is magnetic stress being released every 11 years because of the details of how the sun rotates. Thank you.
Fascinating. Just a quick question. How long would it take if there was a surge from the sun? How long does it actually take to reach Earth if that were to happen?
Okay, I knew someone was going to ask me that. And let me tell you, normally it takes several days. But the fastest that a CME, a coronal mass ejection, reached the Earth was in, let's see, I've got to find it in the notes here, was in less than 2 days. It was in less than a day. And it was traveling at a speed of 6 million miles per hour. Now, that's unusual. Normally, it takes several days to make it over the 93 million miles, and we have some pretty good notice. Not that there's that much we can do, but again, power grids can protect themselves. They may shut down certain vulnerable stations. Satellite operators may become aware of this. In some cases, airports may not allow as many flights. There are things we can do, but it's only a couple of days warning.
Wait, let's do Jeff, then you, Art.
Yeah, Professor, thank you very much for this. You didn't mention the effect on our ozone layer. Is there any effect on the ozone layer from these bursts?
Yeah, so this is a complicated question because we haven't been able to explore that. The ozone layer is affected by this, but it's also affected by things we do, and we have to study that over long term. It's only been in the last few decades that we've had measurements of the ozone layer, and we haven't yet correlated that connection.
You've told us about this devastating possibility. How can we realistically protect ourselves against it? How can we protect our technology? What do we need to do? And do you have any idea what it would cost?
So as they say in the textbooks, that's left as an exercise to the reader. So it's a very valid question, and lots of people are thinking about this. So in some ways, the answer is there's not much you can do, depending on the strength of the coronal mass ejection. But as I say, in many ways, there are things that you can protect. For example, as we send up satellites, we need to shield their electronics. So even if there's a surge of charged particles coming in their direction, they can either shut things down, or there's a protective box in which the most delicate electronics are housed. That increases the cost of satellites, but it may be a good investment, given what I'm talking about. One of the things we can do is to make sure that power grids are much better interlocked, so that if one power grid goes down, another can take its place. We're beginning to do that, but our power grid is old, and it's not as well connected and as flexible as we would like it to be. And the answer to the other question is billions of dollars. All of these infrastructures that we take for granted require many, many billions of dollars to harden, to make more smart. And so this is something that is a long-range investment for our society.
Fantastic. In the back, our cartoonist guest.
Hi, I'm Leslie Lang, visitor, hopefully future Red Badger. I wanted to ask, so I'm single and a Gemini, and I was wondering what sign is the best compatible with Gemini. Oh, dang it. That's not, that's astrology, dang it. I just want to say thank you for the talk, I enjoyed it, and I have a lot of sunspots as well. So,
Well,
all right, so that was.
thank you for that bit of humor.
Ladies and gentlemen, she'll be back next week. All right, we have time for one more question. I'm sorry, just one more. Rod?
Well, wait, I'm sorry, if I have a second to answer.
Oh, for sure.
My sign is do not disturb.
Professor, as we attempt to move to more sustainability with the solar panels and wind farms and those kinds of things, are those more durable or more fragile in a situation where we have a big sunspot?
So our solar panels are passive recipients of essentially the light from the sun. So that's not the same technology as the kinds of things I'm talking about where electricity is in the atmosphere. So I think the continuation of looking for ways to switch to solar power, which nature provides free of charge, is a very sensible investment for our society.
I'm going to sneak in one more from our legacy Rotarian here. You have the final question. Yes.
David Bowers, I'm a guest of Arthur Wiesbrot. So my question is, we're getting a pretty good idea of what these solar flares could do to the electronics, the satellites and everything. Does it affect the magnetic compass? So we might have GPSs fail, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. What about the magnetic compass?
That's a great question. No, it doesn't affect the magnetic compass. But what it does affect, what I thought you were getting at, is that if you're an astronaut between here and Mars, like Elon Musk envisions, and something like this happens, that's going to add considerably to the radiation dose, the charged particle dose that your body encounters. So one of the biggest dangers of going to Mars and living on Mars is exactly this kind of radiation. The atmosphere of Mars has no protective layers, no big magnetic field, so it's a much more dangerous place from this perspective. So if you're an astronaut and you're going to spend a lot of time in space, you better hope that the sun is nice to you. All right, thank you very much,
Thank you.
everyone.
Thank you. Stick around, we'll take a quick photo. We have made a gift in your name to the Trash Punks, and they clean up all of our local waterways, preventing all that trash from going into our oceans and making that plastic gyre. And we also have an agricultural gift from our San Jose Club, beautiful premium Chandler walnuts, and we're going to grab a quick photo.
Thank you.
Okay, next week our speakers are Rondi Hahn and Chris Shea from the Sharks. We're super excited about that one. I've got a couple final a couple of final thoughts I want to share with you. 2 signups in the lobby over there. The International Feast is coming up in 2 weeks, and Lee Weimer's. Don't just show up to Lee Weimer's. You got to show up for that one, even though there's no cost. If you'd like to order lunch, you can. Both those signups are in the lobby. And I have a fun thing for you. Dan Fraknoi was talking about the Jewish New Year, which is the eve of that is tonight. Many of you know the rock band Rush, and you may know the name Geddy Lee, and he's the lead singer, bassist, and keyboardist. And you also know that now is the night of Erev Rosh Hashanah, the eve of Rosh Hashanah, the beginning of the Jewish New Year. And what I didn't know that our dear Tori taught me was that VH1 for years produced Rush Hashanah, which is 24 hours of broadcasting the music of Rush. Now that might sound irreverent, but there's a connection. Geddy Lee was born in New York as Gary Lee Weinrib, the son of Polish Jews, Holocaust survivors who met at Auschwitz. He lost his father at a young age and gave his mom quite the challenge as a teen. And later he felt like he had to make sure that that was all worth it, that he wanted to show her that he was a professional, that he was working hard, and that he wasn't just being a lunatic at that time. He reflected, he repaired, and created one of the greatest rock bands of all time. It's an unlikely trajectory. Whether you're Rosh Hashanah is a time of reflection, repair, and renewal. And whether you're Jewish or not, these themes have universal appeal. So I invite you to move forward, embrace change, and see what you can do with hope to create something beautiful with any challenge that comes your way. Have a sweet, sweet new year. Andy is up front if you have any questions for him. Andy Fraknoi is right up front if you want to ask a few more questions.